Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
We promised our listeners we would have you back, so thank you for doing it in person.
I feel very honored that we're back for a second time.
I think this is the fastest we've ever had someone come back for a second show.
That's true.
I honestly felt like you guys were like kind of lying, like it was a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, we'd love to have you back. You're never going to hear from us again.
That's
and
the
then
same.
here we are.
That's the same thing we tell people. They're like, "Do you ever have an episode that you don't air?" We're like, no, they all make it.
Always.
That's not true.
So we are sitting here with Tara Vanderdessen and Natalie Kovarik.
Yes.
Did I get those right? I think I remember that from last time.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
What did I mess up?
Which part? Which
What
part?
did I mess up?
Get him.
Tell me.
Tara Vanderdusen.
Kavorik.
Kovarik.
So you weren't close at all.
Okay.
You might have had the first letter right.
He got the vowels right. Kind of. Actually, mine didn't. That's why you messed up.
I'm sorry. Anyway, we had you guys on for a Farm for Fun show last time,
Yes. And
which
I'm
is
going-
just about mainly fun and learning about you, but this is a profit show.
June 8th. Went back to June 8th. I don't know
Okay.
exactly what
Wow.
number that was. But yes, June 8th. We didn't even make it to September before having them interviewed again.
So this show, we're going to focus more on social media. But for the people that did not catch the fun show, let's go and give a little bit of background about you guys and what you do.
First of all, we're really fun, so they should definitely listen to that.
It was a really fun.
No, I'm Tara, and I'm a dairy farmer from New Mexico. I also work as an environmental consultant in the dairy space, and then started sharing on social media about 7 years ago, and have grown that into what Natalie and I have now, our podcast, Discover Ag.
And then I am the other half of Discover Ag, Natalie Kavorik, as you said. And my husband and I ranch in central Nebraska. So I have grown up in agriculture. I grew up on a ranch in southwest Montana. And when I relocated to Nebraska, where when I married my husband, I started using social media to sell beef, a direct-to-consumer beef business, and which we'll probably get into. But I had some ebbs and flows through online. And like Tara said, it kind of led me to her eventually.
That's neat because when we explored this during the fun episode, the fact that you aren't neighbors, didn't go to college together, it's not like there was a common mutual factor that connected you two before social media.
Right. We literally just met on the internet and then met in real life at some point in time and then decided to start a business together.
I mean, it seems like a plausible thing to
Yeah.
do, right? What can go wrong?
I think we joked last time that that's not usually how internet meetups work.
He's not wrong, but we've talked about that a lot, is the connections that you get to where these farm shows are almost more fun because you can travel hundreds of miles and meet up with an old friend that you just text with all the time.
So is it odd doing it in person together?
Kind of. We recorded our podcast in person this morning, and I think we've only done that a handful of times out of the 100 and something episodes we've done, and so it's a little out of our norm.
I will say it's a skill to do it virtually because you got to have that little gap in there and know when you're going to speak. It's a lot easier in person to have those cues.
Because we sit here with hand signals the whole time. Like if it's time and this isn't going very well, you'll see us kind of give the wrap it up signal.
The thumbs down.
Or if you got the next question or whatever, yeah.
That's true, because there's a lot of times on our virtual interviews we'll either step on the guests' words just because they didn't get finished or they didn't know we were starting back in and thought about elaborating on their answer.
Yep.
So, well, this is good. Let's kind of dump into what we're planning on talking about today. And first of all, with your brand, because would you argue that utilizing social media to establish a brand is a tool or is it a necessary evil?
I would say it's a tool. I often call it a marketing tool. We're probably the same generation. But, we were first on social media as a probably necessary evil, you know. And then when I started that direct-to-consumer beef business, that's when things started clicking and I started seeing, this is actually a marketing tool and it's a pretty powerful marketing tool and it's a free marketing tool. Like there was kind of a laundry list of things under it that I was like, wow, if you harness this correctly, this could be a big difference for a lot of small businesses. And I think it has made actually a big difference for a lot of small businesses and kind of changed the small business game. So I think I fall in the camp that it's a pretty powerful tool, and if you yield it right, can have big results.
I think it's also probably a thin line of it could be a time suck and not good. But if you, like you said, if you can find the way to harness it, it's all powerful.
So when you think about that, Tara, the fact that it is a tool, can people build a brand without using social media?
I feel like in this day and age, it'd be pretty hard to do. I feel like a lot of consumers, I even know I personally, like after I see a brand or hear about something, one of the first things I do is go try to find them on some kind of social platform, depending on what it is or what it's about. Like I want to see them, right? Like I want to visualize what they're doing, who's representing them, what are they posting. And I feel like I don't want to sound like such a millennial and use a buzzword, but like it's a vibe, right? Like you want to get to know a brand when they're sharing, or get to know a person when they're how they're sharing online.
I think it's kind of like in my eyes, the new business card. So you go to an event, you go to a conference, whatever it is. And we used to hand out business cards to kind of make that connection. Hey, follow up with me here. Here's where you can find me. Here's where you can learn more about me. And I think it would be a transition now to, like Tara said, where you're kind of pulling up like, oh, hey, what's your Instagram handle? Or what's your Twitter? I'll follow you there and connect. I am getting a tattoo, my first tattoo next week. And I even found my tattoo artist on Instagram and checked out all of her work on there. So, I mean, I do think that a majority of businesses are on it. And I think, yes, you absolutely probably could build a successful business without it. But it seems not the norm anymore. Why fight? Why to fight against it, kind of?
Speaking of business cards, have you seen these dot cards?
Yes.
No.
So what is a dot card, Corey?
So you can have this as a card, or one of these guys. What are these called? QR code.
Yes.
And you can hold it up to someone else's phone.
Yes.
And it pulls up all your socials.
That's cool.
Contact information. Even has a picture of you.
I need that.
We do need to get that. I've seen those. We need to utilize them.
Yeah.
So that goes back to your point. Like let's utilize the tools that are available to make things easier and be able to connect with people for our businesses and our brands.
Right. But then you still got to have some business cards for the people you go up to and like, what is that? Some of the older generation, they don't know that. They might have a flip phone still.
Well, we've got some of that older generation as our listener base that might say, gosh, I never even think about I would ever be able to navigate social media. I couldn't navigate TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. Hell, I even struggle with Instagram myself, fully being able to utilize everything that's there as part of that tool. But we had a couple of guys, hopefully they listen and they'll know, a couple old guys walked up to us this morning and shook our hands, said they loved the production, they love what we put together, and that they just love watching what we put out on TikTok. And I would put them 65 plus.
Yeah.
It just was one of those fascinating ones to where you can't tell yourself you can't do it until you go try, or you give yourself some grace while you're trying to figure it out, that it might be slow and clunky to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, it's like anything. I think social media, I always refer to it like a muscle, too. The more you use it, the better, the better the reflexes, the stronger you are at it. And so, yeah, usually starting out, there are hardships, and it, like you said, it will feel really clunky if you are going to try and use it as a marketing tool. But pretty soon, it's like well-versed, and it becomes second nature. It's like riding a bike.
So what platforms are you guys using?
Well, right now, I'd say our favorite platform for this year and where we see ourselves hanging out more is the podcasting space. We really love that platform to be able to have long-form content. I feel like nowadays, every platform that we're on is just getting shorter, quicker, and that's not the case with podcasting, and you can actually have a conversation and be able to really dive into different details. And I know we've both kind of fallen in love with that over some of the other platforms. And then as far as where we're at more on like the traditional social media space, this is probably going to date me, but I actually started with a blog. I didn't even have a social media platform as a blog. But now I spend most of my time on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Is there one better than the other, you feel like?
I think if I had to only pick one for the foreseeable future, it'd be actually LinkedIn.
Really? Rachel probably likes that.
I think it comes down to the person and like what your goals are, right? So if you're attending conferences and you're like in a professional setting or speaking, things like that, like LinkedIn is probably going to be more valuable than some of the other platforms. So I think all the platforms have really unique things about them and could serve a purpose, and depending on your goal could be more beneficial. I think you have to be kind of strategic, and that goes back to your question, right? Like getting the ROI out of social media. when it comes to the time, the energy, the effort, if you want the ROI to be better, it's like make the better decision on the inputs then. Be on the right platform, spend the right amount of time there, like make sure your content aligns, like almost have like a strategy or plan to it, because that's going to help on the, the back end of it.
So what's the secret to LinkedIn? Because I feel like that's our worst, and our DMs are just full of random, spam of like they want to make video clips from India from our, for our podcast. That's all it is. What's the secret?
So a few things. I feel like I've recently kind of tapped into something I'm really loving. People really love graphics with a lot of facts, with the occasional like reel or video. It's definitely like curtailing. I think Natalie would probably say the same. Whatever platform you're on, it's not simply like copy and pasting it across all platforms, but creating content that actually makes sense for that platform. So I feel like LinkedIn, knowing it's more professionals, giving them some facts, some information, like tangible tools or tangible resources is more helpful over there than maybe some of the other platforms where it's more about entertainment or humor or dancing TikTok videos. Like you've got to think about who's on that platform and what kind of content do they like to consume.
Yeah, because your motto is agriculture that you can relate to. Hopefully I did the notes correctly.
You did.
Never heard of it. Never heard of that.
Good.
You just didn't tell me how to pronounce the last names.
That's right. I should have had the asterisks and the dashes and the long with the line underneath of it.
Exactly.
Yes, I should do that. But we're trying on this episode to make social media something our listeners can relate to, because it's going to be a dream of a lot of our listeners that want to be influencers. But we've already tackled in the first 10 minutes that it's not an influencing source of revenue. It's building a brand that allows you to sell more product that you're already making, raising, and producing. Mm-hmm. It's not that you're looking for an influencer contract. We'll get into that. But the first way to make social media pay for you is developing and building a brand.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can monetize social media. And like you said, I do think people initially think of influencing, and then some people stop there, and that's kind of why they're like, oh, why would I be on social media? Why would I do that? I'm not interested in, being a quote unquote influencer. And I don't know, I guess if you're looking at, it could be a disservice to you and your operation, like you said. I know a lot of seed stock guys that are, have a social media presence now. They're posting. My husband, we recently started doing that for our operation on Facebook. And so, there's a lot of different angles you can come at it, whether it's professional speaking, whether it is top of funnel brand awareness, that you're like, hey, I'm an operation that exists. Hey, I'm a seed sales guy. This is, our business. This is, the opportunities are honestly endless when you think about how you can monetize the platforms.
Top of funnel, for our listeners that don't understand or maybe haven't been privy to an explanation for the funnel theory. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so top of funnel, you think about kind of like an inverted triangle, I guess. So top of funnel would be kind of just like awareness, brand awareness. I even think of social media a little bit when Natalie was talking, kind of like your resume, where someone can kind of go and like scope you out. They just want to like know a little bit about you or your brand or what you're offering. And so then, moving through the tunnel, that's the very top, is just people have to get to know you. Then they kind of have to begin to like you, trust you. It's kind of like the know, like, trust is part of that too. So middle of it would be then getting a little deeper into what your business is. It's going to be like your more diehard fans kind of follow you through your funnel. And then the bottom of the funnel is obviously going to be what you're actually selling. So thinking about like a direct-to-consumer beef business, say the top of the funnel is just like, hey, we sell beef. Then the middle would be like, look at our practices. How do you see what we do? And the bottom of the funnel is going to be like, don't forget we have a special going on this month, buy our beef. Like hard sell, moving them through that funnel. They're not going to just show up to your page one day and be like, okay, I'm buying your beef. They need to like move through that funnel with you to like learn more about you.
I imagine they have to have quite a few touches. I used to sell seed, and I think it used to be like 7 touches. You had to be in front of that consumer 7 times before they bought.
It's more now.
And it's
pretty crazy. I think it may like, I don't want to say it equals each other out, but what you're referencing to, I do think they were kind of like longer touch points, like a little bit more of like, I guess, a deeper connection touch point. And now I think they're saying like, we just need, like, was it 30 or 40 like really quick hits? Like they just need to see your name in an email or your name like on an Instagram. It's like very soft touch points almost, where before I think they were a little bit deeper.
So why do you think that is? Just because we're used to getting so many now?
I think so, yeah. I think it's just like content
Does
overload.
Does it ever stop?
I don't think
So it's going to take 300 in 10 years.
Yeah. And our attention span
I'm glad we'll be dead.
Our attention span will be like a half a second by that point.
It's just all you're going to do is consume pictures. If that's the case, it's just going to be a rolling feed of.
Wasn't that Instagram?
You know, I have a teenager, and I asked him the other day, I said, are you getting tired? I mean, because I feel like they're kind of at the pinnacle of like the peak of max consumption, right? I mean, our generation, we were kind of first introduced to it. But that generation, they've really grown up with it. I feel like they don't really text. They Snapchat for like pure way to communicate. And then they absorb, YouTube, TikTok for their entertainment. And so I feel like they are, I mean, I don't even know the last time my son like watched TV. It's truly like social media in all different forms is the way they live day to day. And so I said, are you getting tired of social media? Are you tired of scrolling TikTok? And he's like, actually, yeah, like I kind of at a burnout point. So I'm almost wondering if we're like starting to swing the pendulum back and we actually have the max as a society. But it'll be interesting to see it right out.
That is, because we're doing an episode trying to encourage our listeners to use that as a way to either increase the business that they're already operating or a way to basically drive new revenue sources. But now we might be at a pinnacle to where it's disappearing.
I don't think it'll disappear. I don't think it's going anywhere. I just think it'll continue evolving and changing for how people like it. I feel like we're in a world of extremes where it is just like, like Reels. I feel like Reels even Instagram swung so hard into Reels that it was like so quick, and it was all the singing videos, and it's swinging back now the other way that we're seeing more photos, we're seeing slowed down, people are talking in their videos. Even on TikTok, we're seeing some of that. And so I just think it'll continue evolving.
I feel like intent will come back. I feel like we've kind of like lost.
Right.
Instagram started, or social media started out with very intent purposes, and then we kind of just like turned up the volume so loud, and now I feel like we're kind of turning it back down into being like, okay, there's maybe some intent behind this again.
Yeah, I think we're trying to make them think that it's a tool and not just, like I said in the beginning, a time suck.
Yeah.
Because we've all seen that stat that comes across your phone on screen time.
Oh, it's terrible.
Right? And it's like, ugh. Mm-hmm. Like how much? And that's if you add that up over your lifetime, if you do that the rest of your life, like
it's crazy.
It's like years.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be on there, at least make it worth it.
I agree.
Be intentional about it.
We were just having that conversation a little bit, like an hour ago, if that like if you're going to be on social media, we're all scrolling social media. Why not use it to work for you instead of just kind of like mindlessly posting? I mean, there's still fun to post with friends so you can see what, your great aunt is doing. But like if you can actually hone in and use it as a resource and something to grow your business, earn yourself more money, like why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
We're all on it.
The way I think of it, too, like going back to the top of funnel used to be TV ads, commercials, magazines, billboards. And now I just think that an easy way for listeners to grasp the idea of what social media is, it's the new commercial. YouTube is the new TV. Podcasts are the new radio. It's just kind of like taken over that top of funnel awareness. So that's why I don't think it'll go anywhere.
Yeah, that's interesting. So for a perspective for our listeners, how many different ways do you feel your social media, your platforms that you're utilizing are driving revenue for the two of you?
Well, we both quit our professional careers, so
it's going well
yeah.
in that sense.
I guess I think of social media as a marketing tool for our registered seed stock operation.
Yep.
So if it brings in customers that way, it could bring in revenue for that. We have it for our podcast and our business, and we bring in revenue that way. I have social media for brand partnerships and my personal brand, so it brings it in for that way. I guess like professional speaking could kind of fall under that too. So that's like 4 different ways.
Is the podcast like brands, like commercials, partnership?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for public speaking, I see it more as, again, it's kind of that resume and that people are aware of who I am and then that I offer public speaking. I think in the space I'm in, it would be harder to book a speaking engagement without having a social media platform where they could go and check you out. So for me at this point, even like growing my social media is not necessarily like at my forefront of my mind. I'd rather be booking speaking engagements. And so then that goes back to why you care which platform you're on. That's why I care about LinkedIn right now is for that. And then I think some other ways that you can, like, sometimes it is monetary, like cash, for your business, but sometimes it may be like discounted product availability for your, farmer ranch or, product exchange. Sometimes it's a combination of all of the above, which is always great. And so honestly, when people ask like how to make money on social media, I'm like, I know it's endless and that can feel overwhelming, but it's also just an amazing opportunity that you can take it and like run with it in whatever direction you want to. You can create content for brands that you don't even have to post on your page. Like we're sitting here in the John Deere space. If, John Deere wants to get a picture of a tractor out in a field, like, why not it be your farm and your field that they go out to versus them hiring, like, an actor and a film crew and all those things? Like, and so there's just a lot of opportunity out there.
So do you guys have a YouTube channel?
I was on YouTube.
Okay. Did you ever monetize YouTube?
I did monetize YouTube, yep. And it was, we did well on YouTube. Going back to your question about, I think you asked, actually. No, I can't remember. But, like, what platforms we're on and how to choose them. I ultimately ended up leaving YouTube because the input to create a, 20-minute video is a little more time intensive than I wanted to continue. And so there are differences between the work behind each different platform. And so while I enjoyed YouTube, I loved our community on YouTube. They were a great community. And it was going well. I was pregnant. We had littles. It didn't work for me anymore.
Go ahead.
Going back to what were we talking about?
The tattoo that she didn't tell us what it was yet?
Right. No, you got me sidetracked. Anyway, okay. Squirrel. I saw a kid this morning that was like 12. Boy went through the Sukup booth, and he had a pogo stick and a GoPro camera. Right? Like going back to, you said they're growing up with it. It came when we were, teenagers maybe.
I had my first cell phone in senior. Yeah. And then,
So I'm guessing the likelihood of that kid or someone that they think they're going to go out and be the next Larson Farms or Millennial Farmer, all right, have 1 million followers. Yes, they make a lot of money on YouTube. But would you say it's probably more likely that you're going to have a smaller but more focused brand that you can actually sell products to? I mean, because you got to have 1 million followers or a lot of traffic to generate an income from YouTube, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know TikTok has one of, like, the lowest ad share revenues for creators. I think YouTube, it was the highest. I think it is still one of the highest because Instagram doesn't even pay anymore. I mean, you don't have to be huge. It does help to have, a committed.
Right. But you're more likely to have a smaller group. It's probably rare to have 1 million followers.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's unforeseeable for that kid.
No.
To think he could be. I just think it's more work than people realize.
Right.
And if you ask Millennial Farmers that or Larson's Farm that, they'd say the same thing. They'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Anyone can do what we do. You have to have kind of a niche, just something unique about you. You have to offer value, provide whether that's entertainment or information or whatever it is.
Yep.
Anyone can do that.
And then
but I think a lot of, consistency and work. I think a lot of people don't realize how much of a job it is.
Going to your point, though, like, I don't think you have to have 1 million followers. Like, neither of us have 1 million followers to make this, like, our job and our life, or what we do for a living. So I think that kind of goes to that point. Like, it doesn't require you to have 1 million followers to make a decent amount of money for your, like, farm or ranch or livelihood or business off of social media.
Right. If you only want to take the YouTube fund and not take brand partnerships or whatever, you would have to have a lot of followers.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think Facebook pays, like, second highest, I would guess, after YouTube on ad share revenue.
And that's interesting to think about because as a podcast, obviously we run commercials. We run ads. There's going to be ads in this show. If I would think that far ahead, I could probably say right now is going to be an ad.
Yeah.
But more than likely it won't line up, correct? We come back from that. But when you look at these listeners that we have that have maybe hesitated on wanting to officially launch a brand or move forward with an intent, they're observing, and maybe they found their niche and they know that they have something to do. What's your advice for somebody that wants to start? Is it set up a plan? Do you even have plans when you do this? How do you go?
I used to, and I think that is good advice, but I think one of my favorite sayings I've learned through, like, social entrepreneurship is that clarity comes through action. And I think you could sit and observe and try and create a plan for a really long time and do nothing and get nowhere. And you start, and then maybe 7 days into it, you scrap the whole plan that you spent a whole year formulating. And maybe not. Maybe the plan carries you through a year, and it was well preparation. But it's just such a changing landscape. And I think you don't know what you enjoy until you actually do it, and you don't know what platform you enjoy, and you don't know what your community will want to see from you, and you don't know what will kind of take off. That I'd almost recommend now, like, kind of scrap the plan and just get started. Like, you'll figure it out along the way, which I know is a personality thing too. Like I love to build my ship at sea. I'm very comfortable doing that, and not everyone is. But I just think so much is kind of dictated to you sometimes with social media from your community that it's like, I don't know if you need that detail of a plan. Like don't overthink it. It's not a hard, I mean, you just go on social media, open up the app and you just write something, say something, or do something. Like don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Based upon the outline in front of you, I'm not a build my ship at sea guy.
Right.
I've got that thing built. We did it pressure tested. It didn't even touch water.
Not a sub, is it?
That's right.
My other piece of advice on Natalie's would be going back to kind of what you said. Like, it does take work. Like, it's not that what we do is necessarily hard, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of consistency, you said. So one of my pieces of advice would be, like, go for it and go, like, all out for 6 months. Like, give it a real effort. Don't just, like, be like, oh, I did it for a month and I posted a few times and, like, nothing happened. Like, really commit to, like, okay, I think I can roll out, 3 videos a week or whatever your schedule is, and then be super consistent for month after month after month, and looking at your insights, tweaking things, seeing what people are reacting to, giving them more of what they like and what you like to create, and then like see where you're at 6 months, a year.
I always say that if you treat social media like a business, it will pay you like a business. And I think if you sat down and asked some of the top creators, I mean, I'm fairly close with Sandy Brock out of Canada. And the amount of time, you guys, she analyzes and studies her thumbnails on YouTube and different headlines and titles. And so I think if you sat down with those people and assessed what they were doing, they're treating it like a business. They're putting metrics on things. They're analyzing things. They're studying things instead of just kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall. And so I do think there's like a business component to it.
So I think one thing that we have found is we did everything ourselves in the beginning. And Tanner did all the editing and wouldn't give it to anybody else, and we just got burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
We did all our own social media. There is resources out there that someone can use. Maybe not right away because you're not generating income, but have you guys found there's some good resources to help you with this stuff?
Yeah, that's one thing that we love to talk about is what we outsource. That's something that I think is really crucial to our business model. Like you said, it wasn't something we did at the beginning. I mean, a few things we outsourced right from the beginning. You always outsource like photographs. Natalie wanted high quality photographs. Similar for me. It was just easier and better and more efficient for me to hire a photographer from the beginning to help me with my content. And so there are some things that even from day one may be worth outsourcing. And that goes with anything. Like for me, one of the first things I outsourced was my bookkeeping. I knew I wasn't going to do it. I knew I wasn't doing a good job the few months I did do it. So I outsourced that. And then from there, it's grown and changed what we've outsourced. For us, we outsourced a lot of the back end of our podcast. We both knew we were not going to edit. It was not going to be our strong suit. And where we were better off is creating content. And so you have to also think about like what your strengths and weaknesses are when you're outsourcing things.
I think it's always interesting that people, if, let's say they did have the goal or the mindset that they wanted to get on social media to make money, it always kind of shocks me a little bit, but they don't think they need to put anything into it from a monetary standpoint. It's like, would you go open up a restaurant and just like make your own tables and try and grow all the own food and sew your own tablecloths? Like there is startup cost to a business. And so again, that goes back to the idea that like, if you want it to be a business, you may need to treat it like a business. And sometimes you have to put capital and startup money into something for it to grow into something bigger. But for some reason, people are like, I'm not going to spend that online. I'm not going to do that to build my online brand or sell my business or market my business or whatever it is. They think it should be free because it is, and it can be, but sometimes you got to put money into it.
I think there's a perception of like, the millennial farmer or whatever. He just did it overnight and just all of a sudden it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, every overnight success has 7 years of hard work before it.
And again, most of the people that are doing this are enjoying it, and they still do it because they get to share their story and people value the content they put together. But it's become a job. Every one of us.
Well, and that's usually the breaking point, right? We all get on, like you said, to advocate for our industry and share our story. And then you hit that tipping point where you're like, okay, this is work. I'm spending a lot of time doing this. I either need to make money from it or I need to scale back and not do this anymore.
What about resources as far as like brand partnerships go? Where do you go about sourcing that? Because I know a lot of people want to make the content. They're good at that. But then when it comes to sitting down with the CEO of a company that you're going to take money from.
Yeah, the marketing department.
That's a tough task. Do you guys do anything for that?
Yeah, so what I feel, for sure, that is like a huge piece of it is like either pitching yourself or just if someone reaches out to you, the negotiations. Like I feel like a lot of what we do in brand partnership is a ton of negotiation, actually. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of unknown in this business where it is kind of just like communicating with your brands about what they're expecting from you and what you're able to offer and then how much to, price yourself at. And so I know when we first started out, there was very few ag brands working in the online influencer space. It has kind of changed since then, but I feel like there's been a lot of brands where I've kind of had to like hold their hand, and I know you feel the same way. Like, you guys, this can be something. We can get you views. We can get you just as many like impressions as print media. And so that transition, that evolution for those brands, I feel like was kind of like a rocky road at first, and now more and more ag brands are fully embracing this idea, which is making it easier, but there still is a lot of back end and pitching yourself, getting yourself out there to brands.
So how did you figure out your value, what an impression's worth?
You saw I wrote the word down. You just took
I
the
don't
question.
look at the page.
He builds his ship at sea too.
Yeah.
That's right.
I handed him a hammer. Relationships. I always say that's one of the best things about, or if you are looking to, build a brand or share your business online, try and find other people who are doing the same thing as you that you can kind of join forces. I don't know how many times I have ran a number by Tara and asked her, like, hey, what did you charge for that? What was your deliverables? How many reels did you do? What did you throw in? What did it look like? Did they negotiate down, up? And like Tara said, it is kind of a confusing landscape from both ends. Like, brands are like, how much are you charging me for this? Like, we're not used to paying for what even is a reel. Like, can you explain what that is?
Right.
And on the other end, we have to price ourselves with something that doesn't come with the standard manual for pricing. And so a lot of it has been relationships I have with other influencers to ask them, like, hey, how much did you charge for that? I do not think you can under stress forming relationships with other content creators if that's what you're going to do.
Do you remember the first deal that you got paid to do something?
I remember mine.
I do. It's probably the same one.
And how cheap
No.
was it?
Oh, what was yours?
You go first.
Mine was Propane Council.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, I got paid when it was just on my blog. I didn't even have social media yet. I got paid to do a blog post, and I think I took like some photos for a company who was promoting GMOs.
Oh, that's
which
funny.
is so funny now.
That is
Like, I don't
funny.
even know if I'd cover that now, but it was really a fun partnership to be a part of.
Yeah, I had made money through our direct-to-consumer beef business, and then when I ended up stepping away from that, I was building my own Instagram, and Propane Perk was the first one I worked with on my own individual platform.
And when you look back at that, do you feel like it was completely undervalued?
No, I think I charged myself appropriately.
good? Okay.
Yeah, because I had been in the online space for a couple of years through and I had done a couple, like, I guess, brand partnerships on our Ranch Direct Beef business page. And I had connections, and so I feel like I priced myself
I
appropriately.
think we were so used to doing it for free that when we got our first one, I mean, we did it under our cost to do it anyway.
I remember
It
being
was
terrified to ask for money.
Yeah.
It's a weird place to be to transition from that to say, like, I have worth and value, and what we're offering you is of worth and value.
Right.
But the brand knows it. They'd have to go out, and like Tara said earlier, they'd have to go out and pay someone to do all of this, and they can get it in a one-stop shop from a content creator who has a very niche targeted audience for them when they used to have to create this and then like spray it out across
Yeah.
Right.
how many thousands of people that they don't even know are interested in farming.
Because that's where the value comes, is the statistics that you can provide, like you said, with your deliverables. So if they want to reach out to a brand, be prepared to have an answer as to who your audience is.
Absolutely.
How often they view your content, where they're located at. Because if you can provide the statistical data, then that gives this brand partner something to leverage as far as internal discussions go. Because if we just said, hey, we've got this many listeners and we think you should pay us this, well, that doesn't do them any good if they're all in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a United States-based Iowa company.
And I think you have to know what your audience comes to you for. If I were to share a link to an outfit, like, that is not what people are coming to me for. Like, I don't have it. Like, there are influencers make a lot of money off affiliate links where they are like, this is the shirt I'm wearing, this is the hat I have on, like, whatever it is, and can make money off that. I know that's not what my audience is coming for. And so when I pitch brands, a lot of times it's more like big picture items for like a farm or a ranch, or just like different things outside of like maybe a clothing company per se. If that kind of makes sense.
I think we kind of have to just remember that marketing has been around for a long time. Impressions have been around for a long time.
Marketing is no different it's just through a different app now or a different way, but it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. So I had jotted down some social media facts.
Let's hear them.
Less than 2% of the population is directly involved with ag. So that's just the baseline statistic. But 60% of the global population are social media users.
I'm surprised it's only 60, honestly.
Me too.
Global, not just the
Global,
United
yeah.
States.
Oh,
Global.
yeah, okay.
Yep. People on average use 6.6 different social networks each month.
That's crazy to me. I would be so curious what they consider like social networks exactly. Like, are they including, the Netflix and like 6 is a lot.
Is a very lot.
6 is.
I'm not on 6.
I don't think I'm on 6.
I'll let Corey
3,
count.
4, maybe.
Well, so the podcast itself is on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on LinkedIn, it's on TikTok, and it's on X,
Twitter.
and it's on
Yeah.
YouTube.
I mean,
Squirrel,
I guess so.
Squirrel note about Twitter, though. Is it a tweet still?
Or is it
Or what is it?
X?
An
I don't
X?
know.
An exit? What I say in the truck?
That sounds exotic.
I know. I was going to say all of it sounds very like kind of dirty now.
26.8% of users discover brands, products, services via ads or social media posts.
I believe that.
I feel like that's low. I honestly am surprised it's not higher than that. Like, I feel like I only discover brands on social media now.
42.6% of organizations plan to increase their social media marketing budget in 2024.
I believe that too.
Yep, I have no qualms with that one.
Please keep funneling money into it.
And
I
then,
mean, I'm just not surprised.
No, I'm not at all.
It's been year over year increasing.
Yeah, I think it will. I think they're starting to. Before it was like, okay, you're in marketing department. Spend some money on social media. Like they weren't even having, quote unquote social media, I guess, managers within the businesses. And now I do feel like there's someone that is directly overseeing that. They have a budget specifically for social media. And now I think it's starting to bleed in and take over some of the other percentages that were used for things like print ads and TV ads and radio and all the other, like I do think social media is growing for sure in that aspect.
What's a common mistake that you think someone starting out wanting to monetize social media is making?
Maybe try to show up everywhere all at once.
And I would say trying to copy someone else. I think what makes you unique on social media is really your biggest selling point.
I think what I've seen a lot of younger people that are trying to get into that and like copying, they will go somewhere and they're like, oh, they paid for my hotel room. And it's like, you were gone for 3 days.
Yeah.
You drove there. Who put gas in your car? You travel. So I think a lot of people kind of undersell themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a really good point, especially I feel like with public speaking. I feel like it's really easy when I'm traveling to be like, oh, it's fine, I'll just put this on my card. Or I'll put it on my personal card. Right? You just grab something out of your wallet. We all have done it. And I do think, again, it probably goes to treating it like a business. Like just making sure you're taking into account whether you're pricing yourself for a brand partnership, like thinking about how many hours it's actually going to take you to record it. What are you going to need to record it? How long is it going to take you to edit? Or to traveling. How many days am I actually going to be gone? How far is it? Like all of the things, you need to take that into account when pricing yourself.
Do you try to break it out by hours and put a cost per hour on?
So when I very first started, I was an hourly waged employee. And so I do feel like it kind of sometimes gave me some kind of point of reference because I was like, I'm not going to give up working at my job to do this if I'm not kind of being paid equivalent. But that is obviously ebbed and flowed at different points, different platforms, depending on the size of my audience. So there's just a lot of factors you have to consider, I think, when pricing yourself.
Yeah, Tanner tried to do that.
I started doing the hourly equivalent.
Of course you did.
Yeah, spreadsheets
He
and
had an
everything.
equation he tried to plug it
yeah.
into.
I did.
Oh,
In
I'm
Excel.
terrible.
It's very scientific.
So the funny thing is we still do. It's just you got a gut feeling. I use the spreadsheet to almost get you to the base, to get you to this is what it's going to cost us to do this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very analytical on cost of production, just like farmers have.
Yeah.
All ranchers, just as the pure aspect of, I know it's going to take this much time. Now that we have a team, it's going to take their resources and this material. We know that all of our equipment costs us money. This is what the project will cost us. After that, it's freewheeling.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like, okay, here's what it could be, our time approximately, but this is really what it is taken away from our other jobs.
Right. And we also know that it's unique, right? Not everyone has they could maybe do what we do. What we do is not anything, crazy high, skilled level. It's consistency and quality and knowing that we can get them the views. For someone to just come out of the woodwork and say, I'm going to do that, it would take them a long time to get to that point. Mm-hmm. So it's unique. I think that's valuable.
That's probably the other thing, actually, when you ask me what people are doing wrong. I think it's giving up too soon. Mm-hmm. You know that graphic where the guy's swinging a pick and he's almost broke through the dirt? I feel like people are like you kind of said, they're like, oh, I shared 2 months and I didn't go viral. I don't have all the followers, and it's like, oh, you never know what the next video would have just done, or when I feel like people give up too soon because they don't see that reward as quickly as they want it.
Right.
We're an immediate satisfaction society right now. And I think it's really overplayed or shown in social media.
I still love mowing the yard because it's an immediate gratification.
Yeah, maybe that's why I love it too.
Yeah. See the line.
Yeah.
Make the next line.
See, not me.
No.
No. I think of everything else I should be doing.
I just listen to a podcast.
I do
right.
that when I'm doing everything else.
That's funny. Well, last question that I have is this: are there training resources? Is there like a social media boot camp or something along those lines that you're aware of?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this because, going back to our start and everything, I feel like we've always invested in ourselves. Again, treating it like a business. I've always been willing to put a little bit of money into whatever I wanted to do. We took a podcasting course when we launched our podcast. When I took YouTube, I did it for free, but I followed a girl who was, she was like a YouTube teacher, and she had a ton of free videos on YouTube. And I remember probably 2 weeks, I just sat and watched her videos and absorbed all the information I could before I created my first video. And so I've always put in a little bit of work, whether it was a kind of research like that, or like you said, monetary, where someone can teach you. Like if you can get 10 steps ahead quicker from an expert who already knows all the things, why not do it? We have a Facebook community we created under Elevate Ag that you can join. That it is for creators, for community that want to share their story online or build a brand or business online. There's a lot of people selling courses, content out there. You just I would word of mouth. I'd ask people like if they've taken courses, but a lot of people, that's how they make money too. Another way, they sell the information they have learned and package it into something.
Is that free? Elevate Ag?
Our Facebook community is free. Yep. And it is the sole goal of kind of going back to what Natalie said, that like if you're not sure how to price yourself, there's hundreds of people in that group that are all ag that are trying to sell and grow their businesses or their social platforms. So it's a really great place to be able to go and be able to bounce ideas, get ideas of what other people are charging, just everything. I mean, it's interesting. It's always fascinating to jump in there and see what topics of conversation are coming up for people and what they're talking about. And, we see people that are looking for virtual assistants, kind of outsourcing like we talked about. And so there's just a ton of information in there. And you can find it at Elevate Ag. It's a private group. You just have to submit some information and then you're able to get in.
I love that.
Have you got in there?
I'm not in there.
No men allowed. I'm just joking.
By the way, you're not allowed.
I'm just
Everyone
I
but
am
you.
completely joking.
I still want to know what tattoo she's going to get.
Right.
Are you going to tell?
Well, I feel like it's kind of boring. I mean, I'm getting our cattle brand.
Oh,
Why is that
that's
boring?
cool.
That's
I
really
don't know.
cool.
I just feel
That
like
has meaning.
it's like seems like as a rancher, it seems like, oh, well, that makes sense.
I've always wondered, are there brand designers? And I'm talking like cattle brand designers. Do those exist? Because how do cattle brands get made?
Yeah. So my teenager just, I guess, designed his own brand. I mean, there's things you want to take into account, like if you're going to actually put it on an animal, like ones that will lay better and brand better than others. So you can't get like completely wonky and just create a crazy design.
I've always
but
thought,
you can just submit to the brand board, and then if they approve it, you can have it approved. So he kind of designed, like he melded his grandparents on my side and then our brand and kind of made his own.
Because I don't want to necessarily have a registered brand, but I just think F4P would look cool in a brand.
It's not very expensive to register.
No, not at all.
So why a tattoo now? You've gone a long time without one.
I'm gonna get it with my teenager. He's gonna get his brand, and I'm gonna get
That's cool.
the ranch brand.
It's a bonding thing
Yeah.
for a mother and
Absolutely.
teenager.
Where at?
I have not decided.
That was our topic of dinner last night.
Yeah.
I would be careful. I've got one on my shoulder blade, and it was fine. It's 7 colors, so it took a little extra time. But that what is that? The shoulder bone, your wing,
Yeah.
back
Blade,
there.
yeah.
I'm kind of
It could
bony
get a
too,
little-
so I think it's gonna hurt wherever I
Get a little tender, yeah.
get it.
We
What's
had
your
that
tattoo of?
discussion.
So I have our family crest.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, so we
I
got.
don't think I have a family crest.
The Vanderdusons, my in-laws do. We might on my side. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I would if I did it over again, if I would have went with the 7 colors.
Yeah. I'm
Because,
just doing black.
but I would have went with maybe a gray shade of what it looked like.
Yeah.
But we went exactly off the image that is provided for the family, and yeah, I like it.
Did anyone else get it?
No.
Just you.
They watched him get in. They were like, never mind. Nope, good.
Good.
Chicken out.
Yeah.
No, I've never got one. So we're getting a new podcast studio, and part of
that's
it
exciting.
is
That is
a rental, and we almost had a tattoo parlor in that
Oh, that's
side.
funny.
Yeah.
We would end up with a tattoo every weekend.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Every time you get done with an episode, you're like, all right, another one.
We'd have to start,
Episode 112.
start
Yeah.
the sleeve. That would be fun.
Just tally marks.
Instead of album covers, you'd actually hold on. You guys got to sit still for a little while. So 112, all the way up and down the arm. So, what did we miss for our listeners as we wrap this up? We tried to give an overall view that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there are various ways that you can generate money from it. You can even just boost the brand that you already have.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a way to establish a brand if you're looking to create one.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's revenue that's coming from other avenues, whether it's directly from ad sharing, or it's from partnerships with corporations, or even just local companies. There's a way to take an audience, either built or established, and monetize it. So do we miss anything?
No, I think my probably closing thoughts would be like, if you've been thinking about doing it, like, give it a shot, go for it. Like, the worst that could happen is 6 months from now you decide, like, this wasn't for me, I don't really like it, whatever it may be. But the other side of it, like, I think about how different our lives are. Like, I couldn't have imagined 7 years ago when I started that I would be, like, here with you having a business that's solely online, that I left my job because I was so much happier with doing this. And so it's like, how much could be different if you gave it a real shot and really put it all out there?
Yeah.
Do you think that there's
Fortune favors the brave.
that's true.
Did you say that on the last time we had a recording?
I don't know. I
Do you
might
think
have.
there's a worry in some people that there could be like a saturation point? Is there too many influencers? I say that in air quotes.
I'll go back to the stat you gave that less than 2% of the population involved in ag. So if every single one of us was out there showing up, there is 98% other people who have no idea what's going on in ag, or very little, and would maybe be very interested in following you and learning about where our food comes from, how things are grown. It gives us a really unique factor, I think, in social sharing.
Yeah, and I think the marketplace takes care of that saturation too. Like you said, it's going to weed out the people who aren't committed, who aren't interested, who, that takes care of itself. So if you're really interested and you think you have something great, I don't think you have anything to be concerned about.
That's the interesting thing is ag has a lot of things going for it. They have animals that are fun to watch.
Oh, so much. So visually appealing.
Correct. Bankers don't have that.
No.
Right.
I'm not going to do a
We're
live.
I always think that we're at such an advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I got on YouTube, is because I went to a conference and YouTube said we have never seen the back end of an industry skyrocket. They called it skyrocketing, of users spending time watching something as they had seen in farming. And I thought, they already have people interested in it. All I have to do is create it. I don't have to get people interested in what I'm selling. They're already interested in it. All I have to do is create it, like sign me up. And everyone at that time was doing farming. I was like, I have a unique position with cattle,
Yep.
One of the stats you gave was 81% of the organizations are going to use social media to increase brand awareness. And I almost think sometimes in ag we're a little slower in the amount of people, like you said, that sometimes we're holding the hand of them. Like, we get a lot of people that come to us and like, all right, want to do something. What can you do? And it's up to us to tell them.
They don't come saying, we want you to do this for us.
Yeah.
It's, we'd like to get into this, but what, how?
I mean, I even think about the four of us sitting here. We were partnered with Propane, and we got to come out to this event and be able to share. We have more events coming up tomorrow that we're going to be doing at Farm Progress, and it's just. That's where I say, like, the sky's the limit on what you can do and how you can make money, is because the sky's the limit on, especially if you're like a creative person, and even if you're not like creative, it's thinking kind of outside the box of what you can offer a brand and how it could help them. Like, how could you reach more people? How can you come up with something that's a little more creative and different than what someone else is doing that a brand would be excited about? And so, yeah, there's just so many cool things you can do with social sharing.
Just get started.
How did you get set up with Propane?
I think
I guess
our friend Liz reached out to us.
Yeah, I guess they just found
They cold called
me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not pitch them. I have pitched a lot in the very beginning when I was doing brand partnerships. I will say I did the cold calls. I pitched and I said, this is what I can do for you. This is what I envision. This is what I'd like to create. I had to really earn my spot.
Which is good practice.
Yeah.
Because
And
every
it's
time
good.
you pitch it,
and the more you do that, then eventually, the teeter-totter tips the other way and brands start coming to you.
And it's still to this day a combination.
Yeah.
We pitch brands. We just got an email today with a brand we pitched, and we were like, oh my gosh, they said yes. Like, and we were
Yes.
just as excited as the first brand. And so it's both. And people will reach out to you, and you will have to reach out to people, especially if you actually want it to be a significant income, you're going to have to reach out to some brands, and you're going to have to, because brands don't know if you use them, you know, like it's always a good idea to reach out to brands
Right.
you're using and you love and be able to say, or tag them in your stories that, like, I'm already using your product, and maybe you'll get their attention and be able to kind of create that touch point with them.
What is your process for pitching? Do you contact them first with an email, a call?
Yeah, I usually try and keep it all in email. So if you have to find it from the website, or if you have to DM them on a social platform and say like, hey, I would love to reach out, you know, to about an idea I have to collab. Like, is there an email for someone on your social marketing or, you know, media marketing team that I could reach out to? I always try and move it to email to make it more professional than like pitching within the platform. So that is a tip of advice for
And
people
then I feel
listening.
like the next step would be, especially if they have questions or if they've never done one, it is then setting up that phone call. A lot of times it does take a phone call sometimes.
We get so much more value out of a phone call or a video chat just to be able to feel the reaction, to even just gauge the understanding level, because then you can dive deeper into an explanation, or you could throttle back if you know that that's not something they're interested in, and make a pivot rather than, here's my PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And then do you have like a slide deck or a one pager that kind of gives all, you know, everything about you?
We have a media kit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Our podcast media kit's a couple pages, but it has like brands we worked with for testimonies. I mean, which for anyone listening that wants to do that, it's a great thing. If you know you like hit a partnership out of the park, ask for a testimony for it so you can give that to the next brand, like going back to stats, numbers, proof of what you can offer. So our media kit has like general information about us. It has statistics of our back-end analytics, which every brand is going to want from you, so that needs to be on your media kit. We have the testimonies, and then we have our pricing.
That's great.
Very cool.
Well, good. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
I started off knowing it was going to be a lot of fun, but I think we provided a lot more value than was expected when somebody clicks on this episode.
Good.
Well, thank you.
Because it's going to be a topic that you're going to get those that kind of turn their nose up at it. Like, oh, this isn't real.
I mean, how long have we been talking about it, though? You know, we talk
Yeah.
about social media forever and all the time, but might as well embrace it.
That's
Can't
right.
fight it. But if you can't beat it,
Join
what is
them.
it?
Right.
We
Yeah.
just talked
Beat 'em,
about
join
that.
'em.
We just talked
You
about
are the
Dave.
worst at saying.
That was Dave yesterday.
Euphemisms. Isn't that what they're called? I'm bad at them.
Dave yesterday was telling us a story about that. Walked into a scary group of people, and instead of confronting them, he just joined them.
Yeah.
Became a scary guy.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. We ask the same question at the end of episodes that we do these interviews, and you're just far enough removed from that June category. We ended the advice for those at age 18 or yourself back at age 18. And the new question is, what do you like most about farming and ranching? Or what do you like most about farmers and ranchers?
Oh, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like what I love most about dairy farming is the product we provide, really. Like, I think about how much people love dairy and all the different, like, dairy is such a fun product to be a part of. Like, it is the largest sector at the grocery store, actually, and the fastest growing. And it's cool to see, like, you know, if you love yogurt, if you don't like milk, like, maybe you love yogurt, maybe you love ice cream, maybe you love cheese. And I love being a part of that piece of someone's plate on their table.
Love cheese.
Mine's
Don't
a
we
li-
all?
Love it all.
Mine's a little more inward, but I love the lifestyle it provides myself and my family. I just really can't envision any other way than, you know, ranching and farming is so integrated to your lifestyle. And sometimes that is really, really hard. But I think the pros of that really outweigh the cons of living that lifestyle continually. And then the people. I just continually meet the best people in our industry.
I really love that answer because I kind of go along with it because I love farming. I farm full time, but I also go podcast and do other things. That's like, I can do that because I make my own schedule and I can schedule this around that. And it's, I love the opportunities that it provides.
Those are good answers. I love how this conversation went because I looked down at the computer to check sound at 28 minutes. And I just looked down now, and we're nearly to an hour. So what a great way to carry a conversation and provide value to our listeners. So thank you a lot for that. We're looking forward to sitting on the panel, the perk panel with you guys tomorrow to talk about propane.
Yeah, I know you guys can't get rid of us too soon.
One more time, you have to hang
We'll
out with
find
us.
you.
Yeah. It's going to be a full stage.
So for our listeners, if they want to follow you and look you up again, remind them again the name of the podcast and the Facebook group and whatever else you'd like to share.
Yes, if you're listening, I'm guessing you are a podcast person. So the first place you could find us that you would probably enjoy us the most is our podcast, Discover Ag. And then Tara is on her personal channels under her name, Tara Vanderdusen, and then I'm under my personal channels under my name, Natalie Kavorik.
And then you said it was Elevate Ag on Facebook?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
That's
If
the
you
group.
look up that group, it's a private group, and you'll be able to join.
Yeah. And don't be intimidated. Just go join. If you are literally thinking about, if you have the slightest inkling of thinking you want to share, I would go join the Facebook group, make a friend, make a connection, build some confidence in there, and then get started.
That's great. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And listeners, thank you again. And until next time, have a good one.